Hi, welcome to Relish Books. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmond Rostand. I had mentioned this before in my top 10 favorite books video. And so I just want to talk about it a little more about why it's my favorite and why I think that it deserves to be considered a classic. Obviously it's a play, and but I think plays definitely should be considered classics. If we look at Shakespeare is possibly the most influential writer of all time. His plays are always considered as classics, and I personally enjoy Cyrano de Bergerac more than any Shakespeare play that I have read up to this point. Um, but really, my reason for it being my favorite um, is Cyrano's character. He is just one of the best heroes in literature. He's unique, while following a very, in a lot of ways, a very classic kind of story. When when we look at stuff that's this old, sometimes it can be hard to tell, like, whether the author was telling a story that's kind of a classic story or whether because of this story it is now considered kind of a classic plot line. Because of course all the classic plot lines had their origins somewhere. But regardless, it's just a great piece of literature. It has some of the best monologues I think ever written for a character. You look at some of Shakespeare's really great monologues, and maybe a couple of them are a little better quality. But again, Cyrano is just more enjoyable. Um, and yeah, he has some just amazing monologues. It's this perfect blend too of being really funny and also really good, really great and heartwarming and heartbreaking. Um, is this perfect blend of like the ridiculous and the noble. Um, so it's a pretty classic love story. Most people are probably familiar with the basic plot of it, but Cyrano is this gallant knight, basically. I don't think they really call them knights, but um, that's essentially what he is. He's this gallant knight um, who's all about chivalry, who's all about being gallant. That's like what he lives for, that and being very eloquent. And so he's incredibly smart, incredibly brave. He's kind of full of it, but in a very fun way. But he has a massive nose, and he's very embarrassed about it. So he won't tell the woman that he's in love with his true feelings because he thinks she would just laugh at him. Um, and then there's this other guy who is very stupid when it comes to like eloquence and making like great speeches and all that. But he is very handsome. And the woman that Cyrano's in love with, Roxanne, comes to think that she's in love with Christian, but she expects him to make these eloquent speeches to her and to make this very intelligent communications, which is kind of interesting. It's part of just the whole setup of the story that is what she wants. It's again, it's ridiculous. It's like over the top, but that's just the story. It's really funny. So, Cyrano and Christian end up combining, and Cyrano writes these fabulous love letters to Roxanne under Christian's name. And so, kind of using his appearance and Cyrano's mind, they combine to make her fall in love with them, which of course is going to cause problems, but it's just an excellent piece of writing. Cyrano is just a stunning character. Again, he's so fun, but you really feel for him and care about him. Um, and yeah, there's all this dramatic romance. There's also war and just all these great elements of a story that are really, really well executed. Um, and it was first performed in 1898, so it was probably written a little bit before that. Yeah, just really great story. I love the Kevin Kline and Jennifer Garner cast recording. Um, it's so good. I would ignore all other productions because it's a really good one. Kevin Kline has such an excellent stage presence. The way that he like plays off the audience is really fun. It also just really gives me a new respect for actors when you see them in a play. Because, in a movie, it's like they can do as many takes as they need to. They can take, they can have cuts in the scenes. They can redo stuff. In a play, they have to do it perfectly all the way through. It's really amazing. And also just the amount of memorization that Cyrano would take, because he will literally talk for pages and pages, and it doesn't get boring. Um, it's just so good. But to be able to memorize that and deliver it in the way that he does, it's really amazing. And of course, Jennifer Garner is wonderful as Roxanne. She is so dramatic and so over the top, but it's a perfect portrayal of the character. Christian's super good too. It's just a great cast. Again, watch that one, ignore all the others. Um, but yeah, something else that is interesting to me about Cyrano, just like as a side note, and something that I think about with a lot of different literature, is that of course it's written in French, and so the version that I read is translated, and I have one that's translated by Brian Hooker. And it's always super interesting when you have these books that a large part of the story, a large part of the point and the importance of the work is in the writing itself, is in the literature, it's in like the turn of phrases and the way that characters say something. Like the biggest thing about Cyrano's character is his wit, and it's his ability with words. And so when you have something translated, it's just extra impressive, because it's like, man, I'm reading something translated and it's still amazing when you know that a lot of the inside meanings of things are probably lost in translation. I mean, no matter how good a translator you have, and I'm sure obviously he did an amazing job, um, all languages have that. They have inside meanings and inside jokes in the language itself, like certain turns of phrase and all that. Um, and so to read something translated and the language is still so stunning, that's always amazing to me. But it also really, really makes me wish that I could read it in the original language. Read it in the original language and understand the language well enough to get the full meaning of it. But yeah, still incredible. It's just one of the greatest pieces of literature ever written. Highly recommend it. Again, I think it definitely deserves to be considered a classic. Um, yeah, just one of my favorites of all time. Um, yeah, great story, great characters, everything that you expect from a classic. It's always fun when you have something that um, is basic in a certain sense, but it's just done so well. It's like, yes, it gives me the romance, it gives me the drama, it gives me like this, it's almost like this medieval feeling of knights and battle and all that. It's a very basic story in a lot of ways, but it's so well executed, and it just is really satisfying, really fun to read, and also really emotional. So, really, really great. Definitely recommend it. If you haven't, go read it. And that's all I have for today. So thanks for watching. Bye.